So if the Bucs don't get the offensive coordinator they want, they can blame the Harbaugh family. It's late, I guess it wasn't even that late actually. On would have been Tuesday night.
Yep.
The reports are that Mike McDaniel, former Dolphins head coach, who is in the running, has been in the running for some head coaching positions, including some of the ones that you would think would be pretty coveted, like the Baltimore Ravens, etc. He pulled his name out of the Cleveland Browns situation, but nonetheless, Mike McDaniel reportedly headed to the Chargers as their offensive coordinator. So he'll be working with Jim Harbaugh, as you said before he came on. Holy cow! Can you imagine those press conferences right there?
Just imagine this. Imagine that interview.
Oh my God!
Between those two,
it's going to be phenomenal. just to see Jim try to introduce this guy. But regardless, we've talked about the possibility that McDaniel might turn away from some head coaching opportunities and grab a really good situation. And so now he's going to be working with Justin Herbert, who I believe was taken just behind Tua Tagovailoa in the draft, whenever that occurred years and years ago. But so Mike McDaniel headed out west to the Chargers, and then if it holds true, and Todd Monken does not get the Cleveland Browns head coaching job, and he came back for a second interview, then we already know, because he's told me, that Monken is going to be offered the New York Giants offensive coordinator's position to go work with John Harbaugh. So, the top two choices going with the Harbaugh family is going to kind of nix the Bucs a little bit here.
Well, and that's why the Bucs keep interviewing other candidates, including today. What Dan Pitcher's in today, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what Robinson last week they had in.
They've had Robinson in. They've had Ryan Callahan in, or not in, but they did virtual interviews with these guys.
Okay,
did a virtual with Robinson. I think the only ones that have come in, frankly, are Todd Monken and Mike McDaniel, which tells you sort of what their rankings would be.
Yep.
But there'll be more. There definitely will be more. Like you said, pitcher, I think, is expected to come. And that's, if past is sort of prologue, if you will, I think that they're going to wind up with somebody, in all probability, that is looking to leave their team. Like in the case of Pitcher, who looked at this job about 3 years ago. He was the quarterback's coach, but he knew that if he went back to Cincinnati, he would probably be promoted because Brian Callahan would eventually get a head coaching job, and he did with the Titans, and they did promote Pitcher to offensive coordinator, but he doesn't call plays. So, you just look at what the history of this has been with Todd Bowles, going all the way back, when he first became head coach. Of course, he fired Byron Leftwich, and he ends up with Dave Canales. And why does Canales leave Seattle after like 14 seasons or 16 years with Pete Carroll? For the chance to call plays. He had been pretty high up and been passed over as an offensive coordinator about 4 times with Seattle. And he gets a head coaching job miraculously after just 1 season of calling plays here, in part because his buddy becomes the GM of the Carolina Panthers. And then they go to a Liam Cohen. And why does Liam Cohen really covet this job? Well, he had been with the Rams when Baker Mayfield went out there for 5 weeks or so. And then he'd gone back and forth between that and the job at the University of Kentucky. And he was a play caller at Kentucky, but he wanted to be what? A play caller in the NFL. So he took the job with the Buccaneers, left Kentucky, and he got to call plays, and he did such a good job that he parlayed that into the Jacksonville Jaguars. And why did Josh Grizzard, of course, jumped at the chance? He was already on the staff, but what had he not done? He had not called plays in the NFL. It didn't work out so good for him as it did for Canales and Cohen. However, he got that experience. I saw where he's interviewing, I think, for an offensive coordinator's position. As a matter of fact, Grizzard is. And again, I think that's probably what you're going to get, maybe in someone like Pitcher, who's a little bit older. We'll get to the older talk in just a minute, but somebody that's been around it. Obviously, what Zach Taylor, came from the McVay tree at least. Pitcher has only worked for the Bengals, but he's certainly got an influence from that sort of offense, if you will. And so, whether it's one of them or Zach Robinson, who has called plays before, another Sean McVay disciple, and Robinson has done it for 2 years in Atlanta. Uh, I think if I had to handicap this thing, I would say probably Robinson would be one just because he's done it. But then, pitcher is a little bit older, so maybe you prefer some of that experience, and yet you're taking a little bit of a chance. But that's who Todd Bowles is going to get. I do believe that, you know, if you're McDaniel, you could have said to yourself, well, I got a wobbly head coach. If I do a good job and he gets fired, maybe I'm the head. I don't think anybody looks at it that way. I don't think you can really go into a job hoping that the guy that you're working for is toppled, because it probably means you didn't have a very good year. And it's hard to have a great year on offense and be so bad on defense that the coach gets fired. But I
Well,
it's
unless you're Sean McDermott, but
true, unless you're Sean McDermott. But this is where you would go, right? You'd go, you look at the quarterback, Justin Herbert. Obviously, Mayfield is attractive too. But and if McDaniel does a good job out there, maybe he stays another year. Maybe they win a Super Bowl. You just don't know. But the Harbaughs are kicking the Bucks' butt right now. There's nothing they can do about it. But I think now that some of these jobs are starting to fill, including these offensive coordinators. Look, once the Browns make a hire, we'll know what Monken is doing, and I think he's going to go to the Giants. I'm almost sure of it. Um, and maybe the Bucks realize that now too. They may not have to wait, but I think one of these guys they've already talked to is going to end up as the offensive coordinator. Whether that's Zach Robinson, whether that's Pitcher to when he shows up, it would not surprise me. And along those lines, Todd Bowles did make a hire, and he did it on Tuesday. He hired a special teams coach, and this will tell you something too, because they had interviewed about 5 special teams coordinators. They hired Danny Smith, who's 72 freaking years old, right? He's been in the league for more than 25, I think about 29 years actually, but more than 25 years in the NFL. And the last, I don't know, 15 or so, it seems, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you don't know who he is, you probably recall the elderly gentleman running up and down the Steelers sideline chewing gum. Like, he just works that gum, man. And as the game goes on, he puts more and more in his mouth. It's sort of comical, but he has an energy about him that is undeniable, as many special teams coordinators do. I mean, you're really, it's your time of the game about a third of the time anyway, but he really works it. And his teams have been very, very good. I mean, his teams have been really good, um, ever since they started playing up there in Pittsburgh with him. So I think, hiring him gives you some stability at that position. Just, kind of conversing with some of the guys over there, One Bug Place, they say that he's one of the more, like, players love playing for this guy. And you hear that about special teams sometimes, but because they're the ones that are talking to guys on both the offense and the defense. But really, I think it's a good hire based on what this team has experienced these last couple last couple years under Coach McGahee, who just didn't get it done. All the block kicks last season. I mean, that could have easily turned just one game. And that's what you're talking about. You turn one game difference on special teams. And I always say that you're going to win a game on special teams, you're going to win a game on defense, and you're going to probably win one on just your offense in a shootout like they did in Seattle. And you also could lose the same way. You could have a bad special teams day. You could just get stoned, and then somewhere in the middle is what pushes you over the top. But special teams is something this team, and Bowles in particular, has not paid enough attention to. And I don't mean in terms of players, but maybe in terms of players. If you don't have guys that can run down and cover, I mean, they got to the point where they're just kicking it out of bounds. So I like what I kind of like this hire, especially in the short term, since I think Bowles is very short term right at this point, and it at least brings some stability. That wasn't the only Bucks news. I'll tell you what. If you think Baker Mayfield is losing his edge, I'll tell you why he's not here in just a second. But first, get on down to Breitling Boutique, Been talking about it. There are beautiful sponsors. International Plaza Mall, it's the best and biggest mall in the area. And if you go in there, center of the mall, second floor, that's where you're going to find the Breitling Boutique. You talk about a great store now. Go in there, great customer service. Spend some time. Man, they're going to pour you a drink, tell you about all the great Swiss timepieces that they have. The Breitling Company has been in business over 140 years, making the best Swiss watches. They've been in International Plaza Mall, the boutique has, for over going on 6 years now. And you're going to love, as I mentioned, the customer service. They got men's watches, the Chronomat watches, the Navitimers that they're known for, and then ladies' watches as well for your wife, your girlfriend. These are sports watches. They're incredibly beautiful, durable as well. All kinds of different color wristbands that you can choose from. But what I like is when I approach the store, on the left on the display are the three magic words there: NFL. You'll see the shield. And then you'll see a display of they got about 5 or 6 now team watches. There's 32 teams in the NFL. And Breitling Boutique has fashioned a team watch for each of the 32 teams just while supplies last. In the window, I saw, like I said, about 5 or 6 of them, including the Buccaneers team watch. Now, these are Chronomat watches for men. They have the team colors on the face of the watch, the logos inside. I mean, they are gorgeous watches and collector's items if you've ever seen one, but they're going to be gone fast. So make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique. That's at International Plaza Mall. And when you go, please let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So speaking of Baker Mayfield, he never runs out of shoulder ships. I mean, this has been this guy's whole career, right? Walked on at Texas Tech, right? Freshman of the year. That wasn't enough for him. Left there, walked on at Oklahoma, wins the starting job, wins the Heisman Trophy. We know his history, first pick in the draft, all of that. But he's always found a reason, to be overlooked. And in this case, if you think that he's running out of juice at all, when he said he hated the New Orleans Saints, it's fair that question you asked me. Maybe he hates now the Atlanta Falcons more, and that is because they have hired Kevin Stefanski. And if you wondered about that, because some people were thinking that, well, maybe the Bucs should fire Todd Bowles and hire Kevin Stefanski, who was the belle of the ball until John Harbaugh popped up, of course. But that was never going to happen because it did not end well in Cleveland between Baker Mayfield and Stefanski. And how do we know that? My friend, and he is a friend, D. Orlando Ledbetter, who covers the Falcons for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, he wrote a story. And basically, and I talked to D. Led, he said, look, man, I was just trying to list the number of quarterbacks that Stefanski had, while he was in Cleveland. And of course, when he got to Cleveland, Baker Mayfield was already there. And he played with, I think Baker played with Stefanski about 3 of the years that he was there. But regardless, what he wrote was that, and this is what Orlando Ledbetter wrote, that, quote, Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction to 11 other starters. Quarterback Shedeur Sanders closed out last season with 7 starts. And the story does not quote anybody. It merely lists the number of quarterbacks and where they came, how much they played in the years that Stefanski was with the Browns. But apparently it got back to Baker Mayfield, what D. Led had wrote, particularly the part about failed. And and in doing so, it was actually quite funny because that's what Baker kind of took off on. And he went on social media on X, and he said, retweeting the story and replying to it, he said, failed is quite a reach, pal, which is something I like to call people when it's the most insult you can have.
Okay,
right?
Ace.
Yeah, exactly. Chief. Still waiting on a text/call from him, meaning Stefanski, after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. Ooh, I can't wait to see the first game that these teams meet. Oh, man. That's some hate right there, man. There's some bad feels going on there with Baker Mayfield. But you know what? If you got dealt like that to Carolina in July, no training camp really, just come in, or no off season, just come in right at training camp, preseason, all that. It was not a good experience, obviously, with the Panthers. That was that 22 year where he eventually got waived and claimed off waivers by the Rams, etc. He's a little salty about it, and so guess what? That Atlanta series always fun anyway between the Bucks and the Atlanta Falcons. It just got spicier, man.
It sure did. I mean, the NFC South, there's some hatred there now.
It really is.
I mean, he hated the Saints, and then the Saints couldn't help him in the last game of the season, so now you hate them even more.
Exactly. You got Canales in Carolina, who, he may like Dave, but there's still a bitter rival. A lot of familiarity between coaches.
Well, and, they signed him and then cut him as well. Yeah. Demoted him. And
that's right. Oh, you're right. Yeah, exactly. He hates the Carolina Panthers for that reason.
Yeah, he might like Canales, but
right.
Yeah, he doesn't like any of the NFC South.
No, he's got beef with everybody. And the thing is, as quarterbacks go, you got to remember where Cincinnati was, even when Stefanski took it, or when Mayfield got there.
You mean Cleveland?
Or Cleveland? I'm sorry, yeah, not Carolina. What Cleveland was?
You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. Oh wait, no,
something like that. Where they were, where the Browns were when Mayfield got there, they were a 1-31 team. Right? They had won one game in 2 years. So he comes in under that pressure as the number one quarterback. You got my friend Tony Grossi saying he's a midget, which is a word that most people don't use. And things about he's Johnny Manziel 2.0 and all that. But he had success there. I mean, his overall record in the years that he was in Cleveland was 29-30. Which I don't know. Given that, I mean, it was good enough for Stefanski to win Coach of the Year twice. He won it in 2020 and then again in 2023. Of course, by that time, Mayfield was gone. But nonetheless, it's bitter Mayfield, not Baker Mayfield, and so he's going to carry that shoulder chip. And remember, his third year in Stefanski was there. Baker took him to the playoffs and beat the Browns. Beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in his playoff game.
You win a playoff game in Cleveland, you're not a failure.
No, anything but. And then that really, and it wasn't Stefanski that called him that. It was the writer that called him that in trying to lay out the number of quarterbacks that he had in Cleveland and trying to show a parallel that, well, he comes in third year, right, with Michael Penix Jr., much like it was the third year with Baker Mayfield, I think. I mean, Penix is not the first overall draft pick, but he was a first rounder. So he's trying to draw those parallels. It's just a little clunky, and it's just the word failure hung out. And so, that's what's kind of stuck with Baker. But how about that? How about you're Kevin Stefanski, and you put a guy that's a franchise quarterback on waivers and never have any more communication with him? That doesn't sound right to me.
It doesn't. And I saw the Vikings announcer, Paul Allen, who I worked with years ago.
Yeah, so Paul's great.
He, responded kind of the tweet was like, easy there, Baker. Stefanski's all class, which I don't know Stefanski, and Paul would know him pretty well because he coached in Minnesota.
Yeah. I've heard various things about Stefanski, and that's true about probably almost anybody in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a pretty good coach. I mean, Cleveland has been a disaster of an ownership and a franchise, and the Deshaun Watson stuff. And I don't know how much he was behind that, wanted that. I just don't know. But he seems to have some good offensive acumen, and has risen above some of the problems they've had with ownership and whatnot. But I have heard that, and this isn't unique to coaches in the NFL necessarily, but he's very much a me guy, that it's about him and it's about him all the time. And I've covered coaches like that, and I've also covered players, coaches. And not that one style works over the other. You got to be authentic. You got to be who you are. But players will spot a phony pretty quickly, and there's agendas in this league. And the agenda, of course, if you're a head coach, is to stay that way for as long as you can. And sometimes there are guys that will take credit for things that they had nothing to do with, and take the blame for nothing, even though it falls on their shoulders. So I don't know exactly, having not covered Stefanski, what to say about him, but I have heard that there's plenty of ego involved and plenty of I did this and that sort of thing. We'll see. We'll see what kind of a job he does with the Atlanta Falcons. They do have talent. They have excellent talent on offense with Bijan Robinson and Drake London and some of those guys. They got to figure out the quarterback situation, because Penix is coming off an injury, and I think Kirk Cousins is done as far as the way the contract is structured. So he's going to find out. But it's not as if necessarily that Baker has had any success or much success against the Falcons. I think he's 2-4 in the time that he's been here. So this maybe will push him over the top. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting. Kind of out of nowhere. Just Baker's not one to necessarily go on. I'm sure he combs social media for his little, motivation pill all the time. But aside from that, he generally doesn't respond to it. So we got
a
rivalry.
It shows you how he feels if he's responding.
That's right. Yeah, that one hit him pretty good for sure. So can't wait, man. Of course, last year Atlanta was the first game in Atlanta. The Bucs should have lost, and some missed kicks by the Falcons, and they got the win. And then they needed one more win, and I would say the most bitter defeat. To me, it's a toss up, but I guess it's Atlanta when they're up 14 with 9 minutes to play, and had the 3rd and 28 and 4th and 12 or whatever, couldn't get off the field and let Atlanta come back and beat them. 29-28, I think the score was. So that was about as bitter as it can feel. So they got plenty of motivation, and you shouldn't need it in the NFL. I think all those guys are there because they are motivated, but those are going to be some salty games, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what Stefanski will say, either before or after Baker Mayfield gets to play against them. But that'll be something to watch. Okay, so the hottest team in the NHL, for safe to say, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now they've won 13 out of 14. They've got a 14-game point streak, I believe.
That is correct.
Yeah,
beat the Sharks 4-1.
Mm-hmm. Dominant performance, right?
Almost a hat trick. They thought there was a hat trick.
That was hilarious, man. I thought it was a hat trick too. I was like, "Hey, yeah." So tell me what happened. So one of the goals was not credited.
So Brandon Hagel scored 2 goals in the second period.
Okay.
And the second one got changed to Cirelli later.
Okay.
They announced it as Hagel initially. It was a wraparound try, and Cirelli apparently got a stick on it. I think it was going in anyway, but Cirelli probably hit it, and so the last person to touch it gets the credit for the goal. So after the second period, going to the third, it gets changed to Cirelli, but most of the people in the arena don't realize that. And so then Hagel gets an empty netter, and the hats come raining down.
And I mean raining down. There were a lot of freaking hats on the ice, man.
Except it was not a hat trick.
Ouch.
If I just tossed my $50 hat on the ice and it wasn't a hat trick, I'd be ticked.
I know. Well, it's that packed mentality, right? Like, about 100 people throw their hats out there, and you're going to throw yours out there too. First of all, if you're going to me, right, how many times do you go to a hockey game thinking someone's going to have a hat trick? But if you're going to wear a hat indoors to a hockey arena in Florida, I would bring the throwaway hat. You know what I mean? Like the one that I'm okay to part with. I saw some really good freaking hats on the ice, man. I was like, somebody's going to miss that, like you said, that $50 hat.
Someone maybe more than that. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. But a great game by Hagel, great game by the Lightning. Are you surprised that they're this dominant right now? And when you go through a streak like that, do you inevitably feel like it's going to come crashing down to earth at some point?
Well, I think because of the way they're playing, I don't know about crashing down to earth. Mm-hmm. Are they going to lose some games? Are they going to win 13 of the next 14? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But the way they're playing defensively, and this is without Hedman, this is without Ryan McDonough, this is without Emil Lilleberg, without Chernak for a lot of this. He's back now. Like most of your best defense, and look, when I say playing well defensively, it's not just the defensemen. The forwards are doing a great job too. Mm-hmm. But you saw this, Macklin Celebrini, MVP candidate for the Sharks. You didn't hear much of his name that much tonight, outside faceoffs. They shut down Nathan McKinnon when they played Colorado the other day. Dallas, they had a lead in the third period, and Dallas got 2 shots in the third period.
Wow.
Dallas is one of the better teams in the league. Like they're playing the type of hockey that you remember from the cup runs. Get a lead, shut it down.
Right.
That's the type of hockey they're playing right now. And it's up and down the lineup. They're very responsible defensively as a team. Vazzy's playing great. And they've been getting a lot of early leads. Now, they didn't get the first goal tonight, but 33 seconds later, they tied it. So they're not chasing games. They've been scoring early a lot, which helps too. In hockey, it's hard to chase a game.
Yeah.
So is it sustainable like at this pace? Probably not. No. But
yeah, you're not going to win 13 out of every 14. But I mean, they're not just hot; they're good. And the one thing I notice when they play, is that it used to be, of course, if points on the ice, he's going to carry it across the blue line no matter what.
Right.
But they're not spending much time in their own zone.
No, and Point's not even playing right now. He's hurt for a few weeks.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
There's another injury.
They're doing a really good job of getting it out, getting up the boards and across the ice that way. So. And conversely, they're making the other team go the whole 200 feet or whatever. So it's really, yeah, they've been clinical.
The hard part is that they're on this streak, but they're not really gaining many points.
I know it's crazy. I looked at the standings, and it's like them, Detroit. Who else is in that pack? They're all about
Montreal, Boston, Toronto.
1 to 3 points apart.
Mm-hmm.
There's no separation. They just keep trading spots.
Now, Lightning have a couple games in hand, so in theory, they're ahead, but you still got to get points in those games.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, they played the Sharks tonight, who are third in the Pacific Division. They'd probably be like 12th in the Eastern Conference.
That's just how strong the East is, right?
Yeah. It's particularly the Atlantic Division right now because everybody's hot.
Yeah.
In the Atlantic Division. So keep munching points, as John Cooper would say.
I guess at some point some of those teams will start to fall off, but they've each stayed hot, through this streak that the Lightning are on. And man, it's been fun to watch. So, what screws it up though, like if you're a Lightning fan and you got this tournament coming up, right? When they're playing their best hockey.
The Olympics?
Yeah. The big Olympics. That one.
You're assuming they're still playing their best hockey in 2 weeks from now.
Well, okay. But you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it always seems to come in a year where, there's some team that you have this pause and you got to worry about injury, right? Because there's going to be some players get hurt during that time.
Mm-hmm. But other players are going to get rest.
Some of them will get rest because they won't be able to play. Yeah.
I mean, Kucherov and Vasilevsky.
Yeah, true.
Ryan McDonough, who's coming back from injury, and hopefully he's back before the Olympics, but we'll get some rest.
And rest hurts, but is it rest or rust? And what about the guys that are playing? Or they get no break, right? They have to come back and kind of jump right back into the season. So
it depends on how far they make it in the medal rounds.
True,
but
that's true too. Yeah,
not all of them will.
I don't know. It comes every 4 years with the Olympics. So
4 years, yeah, but the NHL players haven't played in 16 years.
Okay, so they're rested.
But
yeah,
that's why it's such a big deal for the players is that, pretty much none of these players have played in the Olympics.
Right. And then we're still waiting to see if like Point is going to be able to play physically first and foremost.
Mm-hmm. The Point will Hedman be back for it. I mean, we think he is, but
yeah, right, yeah, but you couldn't be playing better than they are right now. Hey, you had a chance to see what's going on at Raymond James because that game's coming up.
Yes, so on Monday they started building the rink there.
Crazy.
All the refrigeration units and then starting to build the structure and all that. So I was there Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
We taped some shows there. And, yeah, it's the grass is gone. It's down. They're starting to build the rink. You can see that. They're starting to build the rails for the tent structure as well.
And they're pretty sure this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know, man.
Well, and the weather right now in the extended forecast looks perfect.
Does it? 70s?
50s high.
Okay. Oh, really? The 50s are high. Okay.
Yeah, in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
And if there's no rain, it's perfect.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
If that holds, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a hell of a scene. I know I want to go. I don't know if it's once in a lifetime, but it's certainly unique.
Well, it's the first ever outdoor game in a football stadium in Florida.
Now they have to fire the cannon at some point. Do you fire the cannon when you score? What happens here?
I would assume.
The horn goes off, the lights are flashing, and then the cannon, right?
I would assume the cannon goes with it. Yes.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's gonna be crazy. What a cool atmosphere. And that's coming up February 1st?
That's correct. We are, what is it, 11 days, 12 days away? 12 days away, I think.
Wow.
No, it's 11.
Awesome.
11 now.
11 days to put that thing together and make sure the ice works and get the folks out there. It's going to be quite a scene to have an outdoor hockey in Florida, albeit February 1st. So that'll be cool.
Yeah. So they have, and one of the things we've learned through this is, so they're building this big tent structure over the field, which they can remove in about 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll remove it on game day. And basically inside the tent will be very temperature controlled, air conditioned, dehumidified, etc. And this is so, whatever the elements are, it'll be fine. So, but they take this apart in sections, and it takes about 6 hours, I think, to remove it. One of the initial thoughts was to put this tent over is to have a helicopter come and take the tent off and remove it right before game time.
Oh, wow.
Which would have been a tremendous sight for in-person and television.
Drama, yeah.
Probably a legal nightmare.
Exactly.
Removing this tent over 60,000 people in a stadium.
Hey, watch that blade.
And then through the neighborhoods nearby.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But how cool would that have been?
Very cool, as long as nothing happens and you have a Vic Morrow situation. Look him up.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been awesome. But now you'll have to do it some other way, I guess.
Well, they'll take it apart instead.
Yeah, the whole thing is wild to me. It's just wild. I'm glad they're doing it. I think it's going to be a spectacle. I love the uniforms. Like, there's so much to like about this event, and I think the atmosphere is going to be second to none. I just think
it was awesome in Nashville when the Lightning played there 4 years ago.
Yeah. Now, let's be honest. You're probably going to have to look at the jumbotron a little bit if you got one of the cheap seats, because you are a long way from the ice. This is like watching the Final Four basketball game or something. In a big arena. This is not even an arena. This is a damn stadium. So,
well, they play the Final Four in football stadiums now, basically.
Yeah, they do now. Yeah.
I mean, the ones with domes, but
that's right. That's right. So
roofs.
You're a long way, but still to be there, to be part of it, it's going to be cool. I know the players are going to. Victor Hedman was out there, I think, the other day.
Yeah, he was part of the press conference on Tuesday.
Yeah, which is pretty neat. So memorable for the players, memorable for the fans for sure. What else we got going on? Oh, the Rays kind of have their sites on the Hillsborough Community College site across the street from Raymond James Stadium.
Well, the HEC board unanimously approved.
Yeah.
To kind of keep going ahead with the development or, plans for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They got over 100 acres over there across the street from Del Mabry, and hopefully that will be their future home. There's still a lot of work that has to be done about that. I'm not sure exactly how that impacts the Bucs. I believe in just the very informal conversations I've had, nothing for the record, but just like I think they're actually okay with it. I think, the Bucs wanting to do the same thing on the east side of Del Mabry, where Raymond James is, they have to at some point kind of refit that stadium a little bit, and it needs lots of upgrades. It's over 30 years old, and so if they break that down to its bones, you're probably looking at trying to get some climate control, not a roof per se, but they also want mixed use development over there on that side of Del Mabry. So I think the thought is that the more the merrier, right? That the more whether it's apartments, shopping centers, movie theaters, whatever that is, around in and around those stadiums year round. If you got baseball going on one side, football on the other, there's some overlap, but basically it becomes kind of a hub of activity there that everybody benefits from. So we're a long way from knowing what the financing is going to be and all of that. It's pretty clear at minimum, though, and I think the Rays have made no mistake about that the new ownership is going to go about this a little different than if they're just trying to make a push this year to win the AL East. I mean, we've seen some of the deals they've made, trading away some of their players. and trying to rebuild the farm system. I think they're really pointing towards hopefully a 2029 new stadium opening and having the best ball club available by then. Not to say they're conceding what's going to go on this year, but let's be honest, they paid a lot of money for this franchise. They don't have a home just as of yet. They're going back to the Trop, which is fine for now. But it's pretty clear, I think, to everybody that they're not going for it, so to speak, from a financial standpoint. And then maybe that's not breaking news around here. I don't know.
Well, for some it is, because some thought new owners are going to spend immediately.
Yeah.
You and I have never thought that would be the case.
No.
That it was all, get the stadium first.
Right.
I mean, and to be honest, that was kind of Stu gearing up for the stadium as well. I mean,
I think so.
If you looked at Wander Franco's contract, which maybe they're still on the bill for, who knows, but it was so heavily backloaded by the time the stadium lease at the Trop ended.
Right.
It was a couple million each year, and then all of a sudden 15 million at the back end and 12 and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
It was all, it's always been gearing up for the stadium.
Right.
And, it appears this offseason with what Eric Neander's done so far that it's not going to be investing in the team this year or increasing payroll.
No.
It's about, not that they're not trying to win. They are.
Sure.
This isn't a tear it down, go lose 100 games for 3 years like the Astros
Hopefully
did,
not.
Cubs did. And,
Hopefully not.
No. But, looking ahead to whatever we do, that this is benefiting us 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now.
Right.
And part of that is getting young guys experience now.
Yeah.
Part of it is playing younger guys.
That's right.
To see if they're capable, if they're ready for this level. That's all part of it too.
Yeah. I just think of Junior Caminero is one of the best players in baseball right now.
Yes.
And what is he going to be in 3 years, right? And is you're going to have to pay for that guy to keep him around long term. You hope. So, all of that factors into it. But I think they could put a team out there with the right pitching and be competitive as they always are. And
the hard part is the Blue Jays are adding. The Orioles are adding.
Yeah,
the Red Sox are adding. Right. The Yankees aren't doing anything, which is surprising. But
yeah, but they'll always have a good team. I mean,
but the other three are adding.
Right. Yeah,
I can tell you, Yankee fans are ticked.
Yeah, I bet they are.
They're not doing anything.
I bet they are. It's it's the AL East, man, and baseball has its issues, and we can debate that another time about the money portion of the game, how much the LA Dodgers are spending, and are these small market teams still able to compete and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
But
and the other interesting thing is what happens in the 2027 season.
Yeah, right.
Do we have a season? Is it shortened? Is it?
Yeah, no. It's the train coming down the tracks, and everybody knows where it is. And these things have not usually boded well for baseball fans anyway. When they get into these big big contract disputes or labor disputes and that kind of thing. So long way to go, but I guess it's good news for the Rays for now. Non-binding agreement to place that stadium over there, along with a mixed use facility, I guess, or areas. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot that's going to go on with with the Lightning's arena. Certainly with the Buccaneers, we're still waiting to hear from them as to what their plans will be and how much money they're going to need. A lot of need when it comes to facilities and pro sports teams in this area. So dollars stretched pretty thin as it is. I don't know if it's the first one to the party wins or what. And for that matter, where teams play. Do the Buccaneers, for example, play at USF? Right, if their stadium is complete, smaller ballpark, obviously, but still in Tampa.
Well, they need to move out. I mean, Miami didn't move out with their
no, but Jacksonville
is. So
yeah. Depends on all the scope of the renovation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the scope and exactly how it impacts fans attending a game,
right,
and playing games. I mean, if the bones are good in the structure, maybe you can get away with doing it and not having to leave. Don't know.
Maybe.
It all depends on what all they want to do.
I renovated my house and I lived in it. I would never do that again. I do not recommend it unless you like to hear the sound of hammering. But that aside, some good stories in the Tampa Bay Times, TampaBay.com. Make sure you check out that. Make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique. Check out their beautiful watches, the men's watches, the chronomats and Navitimers, NFL team watches while supplies last. Watches for your wife or your girlfriend. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure when you go, you let them know you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks as always for listening. Guess who's going to join us tomorrow, Steve?
The new Bucs offensive coordinator?
Well, maybe he's gotten that job. No, our good friend Tom Jones.
That's right. That's right.
Come aboard for a couple shows and we'll go cut it up. Haven't talked to him in for a while, so that'll be fun. Lots of stuff has happened since then. So make sure you join us the rest of the week. Thanks for listening. As always, for Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.